You're back. Yeah, the Varied Life here. Steve, the retired hobby tech guy. And for those of you who don't know, my wife and I, we sold everything in the United States, lock, stock, barrel, even everything in the kitchen junk drawer. And what we ended up doing was retiring overseas, and we ended up here in Korea. So it's been really fun. We've been here over 2 years now. I can't believe how fast time has gone by. And it's 2025. It is now the 22nd of February, and it's about 7:35-ish at the time of this video. And a balmy 24 degrees out here in Korea. Yeah, we're still going through the harsh Korean winters, and hopefully sometime soon we will end up getting some better weather. And according to what we end up seeing, we'll get in a few days. Next week we should be getting in the mid 40s into the 50s, and by end of the week into the high 50s. We're definitely getting into t-shirt weather. Definitely enjoying it. But with that, a lot of interesting things happen when you retire overseas, and I wanted to go over some of the things that we are experiencing as we're retired in Korea. One of the things is the ongoing doctor strike, mandatory military service, which is interesting for those who doing the doctor strike thing. That's going to raise its ugly head. We're going to talk about North Korean defectors that come from the Ukraine, and Skants. Skants. It's a thing. It's kind of a weird thing. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll take a look and see what's going on. 1 year on, a resolution to doctors' walkout remains painfully elusive. And for those of you who don't know, excuse me, it ends up that it's been a year since junior doctors resigned or took leaves of absence in protest of the government's plan to expand medical school enrollment. Yet the standoff between the medical community and the government remains unsolved. For those of you who don't know, it ends up Korea hasn't had an increase in the number of doctors in 27 years. So they have kept the same number of doctors. And of course, you have through attrition and retirement and dying, they replace those doctors. So I'm not saying that they're not replacing doctors, but they're not adding any new doctors. Even though the population has grown during those 27 years, even though we're getting into a super aged population as we're coming into that, and of course, as you get older, believe me, you will have more medical appointments. I'm pretty healthy. I still got some problems and issues, and I need medical, I need prescriptions, I need this and that, and eventually you're going to have more medical appointments. And people that aren't as healthy as I'm blessed to be right now, eventually you're going to need more and more doctors. But Korea is to the point of where it's at the breaking, where, before this strike, they were doing pretty good. And unfortunately, the Korean Medical Association decided to go on strike. And so all the resident doctors, about 10 or 12,000 doctors, going through residency, decided to go on strike at the behest of the doctors' union, saying that we don't need new doctors. It'll destroy the medical community that we have. It'll destroy the system, and patients will suffer, people will die, which is, I don't understand, because all the government wanted to do was to add 3,000 more doctors. In the last 27 years, every time they suggest to get more doctors, the KMA, the Korean Medical Association, ends up going on strike, the government folds, and they don't get new doctors. And yet, doctors are working more and more, 70, 80, 120 hours a week. They'll see 100, 150 patients a day. The average of time that a doctor spends with a patient is 3 to 4 minutes, and even that is questionable. I've personally experienced Samsung Medical Center and some other hospitals to where the time is even less, and it's the queues for seeing a medical provider are huge. So really, they're being overworked. And the strange thing is that the government isn't asking for this huge influx of doctors. It's just 3,000. I think it actually started out with like 5,000, but 3,000, and then the government dropped it down to 2,000. Well, the Korean Medical Association says, no, we're sticking to our guns. We're not going to, we don't want that. And all the training doctors at 5 major hospitals officially announced their resignation to protest the government's plan to increase medical school enrollment by 2,000. So as we went through all this, it ends up that the government says, yeah, we need more doctors. We have an aging population. The KMA says, no, we're not going to do it. We don't need more doctors. But they say that they're being overworked, but the majority of these doctors work at for-profit hospitals, but they're not striking against the hospitals. It's just because the government wants to have a few thousand more. And if you've seen my other videos, when you look at the number of training hospitals, you would get maybe 1 extra doctor per specialty, maybe. So and then the other thing is they want to put more doctors in more rural areas. So it's just weird. It's like, hey, the Korean Medical Association is doing the opposite of what they were, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, by going on strike. People have died. People haven't gotten surgeries. People can't get chemo. People have had heart attacks and can't be admitted to emergency rooms because they don't have doctors. Some emergency rooms are closed on certain days. There was a case of where somebody had a heart attack, went to a hospital, couldn't get seen there, so they went to another hospital. Nope, we can't accept you. 7 hospitals they went to. 7. And I think they ended up dying. It was just absolutely insane. And it's still going on. For those of you who don't know, it ends up that when you go to residency, let's say it's 3-4 year residency, whatever it is, just general doctor-ish residency, you're going to do 3 to 4 years. And if you don't complete that, then you have to redo your residency. Well, now these people have been gone for over a year. They're going to have to redo their residency. And I don't know how they're supporting themselves now. And I don't really understand how going on strike for the increase of 2,000 doctors, how that is detrimental to the nation or the people. What we have seen as an outsider looking in is that people aren't getting treated. And my wife and I personally experienced it, that appointments are being pushed back for certain things 6-8 months, even more. They've closed down a number of wings in hospitals, the number of beds, and number of people that they will allow into the hospitals. And it's hurting the bottom line of the for-profit hospitals because the majority of them are for-profit. So I don't understand why the Korean hospitals on the business side, for-profit, are not standing up and doing something about the strike. It doesn't make sense at all. So, then you got the whole impeachment thing that we got going on over here for Korea, which is really weird because of the martial law. But that aside, it's absolutely strange. Neither side wants to bend. Actually, the Korean government actually bend and lessen the amount of doctors that they want into the medical schools. The KMA has said, no, we don't want to do that. And it's just become a thing. And the government said, we're going to punish you if you don't return back to work because it's a national issue now. And the doctors played the bluff and the government said no. And so now a year later, we still don't have enough doctors. Some people are going to other countries to get medical treatment. And I've talked about prescriptions and the way that the Korean medical system works. Yeah, it's at a point where it's absolutely crazy, and I do say that it is money driven. You can get excellent care. I'm not saying that you cannot get excellent or good care in Korea. We actually do, especially if you go to the larger hospitals like Samsung Medical Center, the Big Five, and then some of the bigger hospitals. You will get good care. Smaller hospitals, just like anywhere else in the world, your mileage may vary. Let's just leave it at that. So it gets really interesting with that. And the whole thing I don't get is that the Korean people are taking the brunt of this. They're the ones that are not getting appointments. They're the ones that are not getting surgeries. They're the ones that are not getting treatment. And doctors, now you have 10 or 12,000 doctors, resident doctors who left, who do the majority of the work in the hospitals. Who pays the price? The Korean people who are sick that can't get treated. So it's like the opposite of the Hippocratic Oath, put your patient first, do no harm to your patient, and so on. But they're actually doing harm by striking. It's absolutely weird. So anyway, it ends up, I don't know. It's just absolutely crazy. And it ends up that the policy package that the government wants, the Korean Medical Association says, yeah, we should ban this. We don't want anything that the government is proposing. And the policy package in question includes increasing the medical school enrollment quotas, by 2000, they dropped that level, and investing over 10 trillion won, nearly $7 billion into essential healthcare services to address systemic issues, particularly in regional medical facilities. According to a source within the medical community, hardliners, mostly leadership in the KMA, argue there is no need to rush in advocating for waiting until May when a presidential election is expected. But yeah, so, and for those of you who don't know, this strike has gone on for over a year now, and it even affected the medical schools. So the KMA, the Korean Medical Association, has such power and pull that they convinced medical school students and medicals to not go to medical school. So they've been on strike. Now, here's the other interesting thing, is when you take a look at this, Korea has mandatory military service, but there's a caveat. There's always some exceptions to the rule, and one of those exceptions is that if you are retired or if you're a doctor in Korea or you're going through medical school to become a doctor and you're doing residency, you're exempt from doing that military service because you're supposedly doing a great service by becoming a doctor and treating the nation's people. Well, since these residents and medical school students have said, nope, we're done, we're on strike, and it's been over a year, that exemption policy is like being pulled off of the table because they are no longer going to medical school. Excuse me. And they're no longer going through residency. So the next thing that we're seeing is some really interesting stuff, and let's take a look at that. Male doctors who quit medical training last year to enter military services in phases through 2028. So you've got basically 2 to 3 year mandatory military service for males here in Korea. And women can join the military as well. Matter of fact, we were just out at lunch the other day, and we're on a military base. And there's a lot of Korean soldiers there, and there's a lot of female Korean soldiers there, way more than we have ever seen before. So it's pretty interesting. But it talks about this right here, where it says male doctors who quit their medical training last year to protest the government's plan to raise the medical school quotas and doctors will begin their mandatory military service phases in 2025 to 2028 instead of entering en masse this year. Last year, thousands of intern and resident doctors at hospitals resigned in protest the plan to have 3,000 more doctors, and they were exempt from that military service. So Koreans require all able-bodied men of at least 18 months of military service. Male training doctors who have yet to serve are temporarily exempt from service during the medical training if they agree to serve as military or community doctors. So, there is some service, but you're going to do it as a doctor. Last year's mass resignations, however, have automatically placed 3,300 male doctors eligible for service this year, far higher than the usual figure of about 1,000. Considering this year's figure, the ministry says such doctors will enter service in phases through 2028, citing concerns of personnel shortages down the road if they all start their service in 2025. However, opposition of some trained doctors have resigned, as many of them would require to wait to carry out their service. So a group of such doctors plan to stage a protest outside the military headquarters in Seoul on Saturday, according to Yonhap News Agency. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. You know the laws of your land. You know that you're going to have to do some mandatory military service. You chose to be a doctor. You got on that path to be a doctor. You took on student loans to be a doctor, and then you decide to go on strike, which is great. You should be able to air your grievances, voice your concerns, and so on and so forth. But if you don't go back to medical school and you don't go back to residency, you made your bed. It's time to lie in it. So you're going to protest. Excuse me. You're going to protest the mandatory military service that everybody has to do because you went against the rules and you think that adding 2,000 more doctors is wrong and going to destroy the medical community. And here's the interesting thing. This is the rhetoric that we hear from the doctors union as they say, well, if we have 2,000 more doctors, that's going to destroy the medical system we have. How? I don't understand. They're not calling for lowering of standards for the addition of these 2,000 more medical school slots, i.e. people eventually becoming doctors. So they're not lowering standards. They still need to go, get their pre-med, still need to go through medical school. Hasn't been truncated in any way, shape, or form. Still have to go through the exact same residency. Still go through board certifications and trainings and all of that. Nothing has changed. Nothing. Absolutely. You still get the same number of hours that you have to put in. You still need to get rated the same, to become a doctor and so on and so forth. So nothing has absolutely changed on that end of this equation. So how are 2,000 more doctors going to destroy the medical system? For the overworked system that you have that the doctors union complains about, I'm not really understanding how is that a problem? And the other interesting thing is the Korean Medical Association does not put forth any other ideas or suggestions or solutions for them being overworked, working 36-hour shifts, working 6-7 days a week in certain circumstances and 120, 180 hours a week. I mean, it's absolutely insane. But they don't come up with anything as to say, okay, well, we don't like this idea. Here's some other possible solutions that we like that we're presenting to the government. Zero. It's just the same rhetoric. Nope, we're not going to do it. Government's bad. Government's wrong. We don't need more doctors. When actually the opposite is true because of the super aging population. And it's the fact that people died because they cannot get medical treatment. Yeah, that kind of flies in the face of saying, who's really, I'm not worried about destroying the medical system. I'm worried about the people dying who can't get treatment. It's weird. So now all of these resident doctors are getting to a place where they have to enter military service. But guess what? If you went through medical school, you still have student loans. How are they paying for the student loans? I don't understand. I don't understand the mentality of these people that go through, pre-med, almost all their medical school, and then they decide to go on strike. Lifelong dream of being a doctor, and then now we're going to say screw it because we don't want to add more doctors and treat people, which is actually the highest calling that I can think of. I just don't get it. I don't understand the rhetoric. I don't understand the mentality, and it just ends up I haven't heard anything from the KMA that would make me change my mind and say, oh yeah, that's a good point, because they don't have any good points. There's actually a Korean medical doctor union spokesperson that said there's only so much prestige that comes with being a doctor. And if you add more doctors, that will lessen the prestige within the field. Not about pay. Yeah, let's just be overworked. We're more concerned about the prestige, as if prestige is some tangible thing. Yeah, it's weird. It's all political. And it's interesting because the Korean media, and when they interview all of these doctor union spokespeople, Korean media, no matter what it is, nobody asks, what plans do you have? What other solutions do you have besides saying, no, we're not going to do this? How do you plan to, if you're rejecting adding 2,000 more doctors, how do you alleviate the overwork? How do you alleviate the backlog of appointments that is continuing to grow and get worse and worse and worse? I'm all ears, but nothing, absolutely nothing. So that's kind of another weird thing. But yeah, the mandatory military training thing is going to be weird, coming to the point of where, yeah, it's going to get really, really interesting. And because now what do you do? I mean, you got to do your military service, but now they're saying they're going to protest that. And it's like, now in Korea, if you don't do your military service or you protest against it, yeah, you're really looked down upon. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to fare well. But the people that are going to take the brunt of this is the Korean people themselves and people like me, foreigners and people who are in work visas. It's just going to end poorly. And it's gone on for over a year. I've talked to people who are in medical, in the United States and overseas here in Korea and from other countries. I had a chance to talk to some people who are in medical, nurses and therapists and so on and so forth. And they can't believe what is going on. It's just unbelievable. They've never heard of anything like this. I don't know. It's just absolutely weird. So let's move on and we'll talk about 1 and 2 North Korean soldiers captured in the Ukraine voices intent to go to South Korea. So in other words, they want to defect. And for those of you who don't know, it ends up that North Korea and Russia kind of got into a thing. They said, hey, we're obviously some favors are going to be exchanged. So Russia went to North Korea. North Korea said, yeah, we'll give you some of our soldiers. I think it's like 5,000 or 10,000 soldiers or something like that. They're special commandos or whatever soldiers. And they've been getting their asses handed to them. North Korean soldiers have not been doing well. Of course, neither has Russia as well. Their soldiers are getting spanked. And then the whole thing is just absolutely crazy on how that has gone on for 3 years now. But now it's interesting because over the course of the war, as North Korean soldiers got into the war, not only do they get killed at a much faster pace, and North Korean soldiers have been recorded saying, hey, this is a meat grinder. Nothing prepared us for this. This is absolutely crazy. So these North Korean soldiers are coming to terms with, this is a bad thing. We didn't sign up for this. Of course, you don't have any choice being North Korean. So now that's why half of the soldiers, North Korean soldiers that survive, and a lot of them are just being slaughtered, are saying like, yeah, I want to go to South Korea. So, wounded soldier suspected to be North Korean captured by Ukrainian forces. 1 of 2 North Korean soldiers captured by the Ukraine has expressed their wish to go to South Korea to defect. And a North Korean soldier identified only by his name Ri said in an interview with Chosun Ilbo that he never knew he would engage in combat against Ukraine, as he was told that he would be sent to Russia for training as an overseas student. There are some other reports that I've seen where kind of said the same thing. Oh, it's just a training mission, and then they just dump them into war. I've made up my mind 80%. Above all, I will seek refuge, and I'm thinking about going to the Republic of Korea. If I apply for asylum, will they take me? Ri is 1 of 2 wounded North Korean soldiers captured by Ukrainian forces in Kursk region. Marked the first time that a North Korean soldier captured has expressed an intent to defect to South Korea since North Korea sent about 11,000 troops. Ri was born in 1999, a scout sniper, talks about that. Pilots of the Ukrainian military drones are all ROK soldiers, adding that he engaged in combat with Ukraine while believing he was fighting against South Korean troops. So yeah, there were some other things where they were told that they were you're going to fight against South Koreans in this unjust war of Ukraine and whatever. So, but yeah, no, it's not a thing. He sustained serious wounds of his jaw and arm, and almost all his comrades from a military unit were killed due to drones and artillery attacks. He also said he could have tried to blow it himself up if he had a hand grenade because being held prisoner in North Korea amounts to betrayal. So, in other words, it's a treasonous act. As a North Korean soldier captured by Ukraine has expressed his wish to defect, that draws attention will be whether South Korean government will kick off consultations with Ukraine over this issue. Yeah, it's kind of interesting what's going on over there. As North Korean soldiers are nationals according to the Constitution, plans to hold discussions with Ukraine if they request defection to South Korea. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and some experts argue that North's case may be an exception to such a repatriation duty under reference documents of the International Committee of the Red Cross, given that Reed could face serious human rights violations if he's sent back to North Korea, which is absolutely true. Yeah, if it ends up that if you in North Korea and you do something that's dishonorable and you get captured, you're gonna die if you go back home. So yeah, it's not looking good for North Korean soldiers, and thousands of them have been killed. And the other reports that I've seen is that the North Korean soldiers are not they're not as high speed, low drag as they're as we're led to believe, and also or that the war in the Ukraine is way more intense than what they were initially told. So it's kind of a between a rock and a hard place. Did you get the pun? Rock. Rock, Republic of Korea, rock pun. If you got it, give yourself a gold star. So anyway, we got that going on, and then the last thing we're going to talk about, Skants. Skants. This is the new thing that's going on, the Skants, and coming to the fashion world near you. Yeah, Skants. Skirt over pants style becomes the new fashion craze. You wear a skirt and you put on some pants. I don't know. If that's what you want to do, style of wearing skirts with pants is also gaining attention overseas under the keyword scant, a compound of skirt and pants. Skirt pants have established themselves as a popular fashion item among Musina's female customers who prefer unique silhouettes and designs. Skants over pants look is gaining popularity as a style that combines comfortable features of pants with a fashionable emphasis on skirts. So, get yourself some Skants, and that could be the thing. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. Things you see overseas in Korea, and like some of the other things that I've noticed here in Korea when it comes to fashion and K-pop, which I'm not into at all. That's not my thing. Is the amount of makeup that men wear now is absolutely crazy. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But it's weird because recently I saw there was a short reel of a lady who traveled to Korea, here in South Korea, and is looking for, a Korean boyfriend. And it ends up she was really dismayed because all of the normal Koreans look like normal Koreans. They're not chiseled. They don't have the makeup. And she was really disappointed. And it's like, well, kind of like celebrities in the United States, they're all dolled up, they all have makeup, they all do Photoshop and the whole 9 yards and filters. And when you see them in real life, it's kind of a letdown. So, but the amount of guys that wear makeup now is crazy. And there's actually Korean TV shows and dramas and things like this where you can watch it And you can see that the male Korean actors, the handsome guys, the chiseled jaw, the main on, boyfriend material, romantic, whatever. It ends up that I've seen some where the guys have more makeup than the women in these shows. And even on the talk shows and the variety shows, where you get celebrities that, they go out in a group and they go to restaurants or do whatever things, travel around the world or Korea or whatever. I'm starting to see more and more where the men have more makeup on than some of the women. And it's just interesting to think back that when I first got to Korea in 1988, yeah, that makeup for guys wasn't a thing. And it was just, now it's just weird. It's just, now there's whole makeup product lines for men, which is, it's not my thing. If you want to do it, that's fine. But it's just, it makes me wonder, especially with the video of that lady who came to Korea and was dismayed that where are all the good-looking Koreans? And it's like, well, maybe it's because the makeup is making them look good. Kind of like women who put on makeup. It's false advertising at times. You've seen the reels and the videos where the woman who looks like a hag and she does the makeup and she looks like a perfect 10, Victoria's Secret model. That's false advertising. And then there's even the reels of women in the United States that are like, if a man wants to see them without the makeup, the hair, the nails, and all that stuff, then that you shouldn't date a man like that. And it's like, well, kind of want to know what I'm getting into. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, and that's just the way things are. But if you spend more time putting on makeup than women, really, I guess I'm just old. I'm 58, and I'm just not into that. But I will say that I do take care of myself, wash my face more, and every once in a while, my wife will put a face pack on or whatever to moisturize my skin, and it's like, okay, whatever. And there are some things that I do that I like that I didn't think that I would like here in Korea. So one of those things being, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, and it's dragging on for a few days now. But if you told me 5 years ago that one of the things that I would like about, that I would really like and enjoy is a bidet, I would have thought you were crazy. It's just, I would be like, what? No. Because I was a hardcore meat and potato, U.S. American flag waving, gun shooting, Second Amendment type of guy. And, hand me that sandpaper, stuff to wipe my butt. But honestly, bidets are awesome. Bidets are awesome. No longer have the dingleberries hanging down there. Don't have the streaks that used to be in underwear. It's because you can't wipe it as much as you try. You just can't get as clean as you can with a bidet. And to be honest with you now, it's kind of like I look at myself back then and I was like, man, I don't know what I was thinking. And I've gotten so spoiled by the bidets that they have here in Korea. We have a bidet in our apartment, that it's got a heated seat. So when you get up in the middle of the night and you sit down, it's not the cold toilet seat. It's like toasty warm. It's like, oh, I love that. That is just so good. And not only do I do my business and I press a button that it washes my exhaust port, let's say, and it cleans that whole area with warm water. I can change the temperature of the water that's washing my exhaust port. And it's just really, really good. And then there's even bidets that will blow hot air or warm air to dry your exhaust port and the areas around your exhaust port. And then another amazing thing that I've gotten so spoiled is the bidet that we have is that when I stand up, when I'm done, because I'm clean as a newborn baby, when I stand up, it automatically flushes the toilet. I'm not kidding you. Automatically flushes the toilet. I love it. It's absolutely wild. So, yeah, I'm changing in some ways since I've retired here in Korea. But yeah, it's really kind of interesting what we end up seeing here. And generally, like I've told in other people in other videos, is that I really like Korea. I like the respect. I like the maturity of Koreans and the hardworking, and they're considerate. When you go on public transportation and you go on the train or the buses, it's quiet. It's nice and quiet. It's reserved. You get on a train, like we got on a train. We went down to Busan to go eat one day, spend the day down there. A few hours, but the train is silent. And if you want to listen, you got your earbuds in, watch movies or whatever it is, but it's nice and quiet. And everybody's just relaxed. You can take a nap, you can sleep. There's no crazy people yelling on the train or the buses. It's just a real nice, enjoyable thing. And I like that. I like that you don't have stupid, crazy people like in the United States. I can tell you the amount of disrespect and people that are loud and obnoxious on public transportation and people that just pick fights on public transportation. I have yet to see that here in Korea. And again, people ask me, well, what about the crime? And it's like I've experienced more crime in the United States than I have in Korea. Matter of fact, I have never felt unsafe in Korea. And that's saying a lot because I've been in areas of Korea where you would think I wouldn't feel unsafe or I wouldn't feel safe, but I never felt unsafe. In bars and the whole 9 yards and stuff like that. And as I told in another video, I remember a Korean guy, this was before I got married, but we were going to a bunch of bars far away from the military base. And this Korean guy, drunk Korean guy, he started yelling at me, and we had a little altercation. But then it ended up that I can't remember who, I think I offered to buy him a drink. And somehow, because I didn't speak Korean, he didn't speak English, that I was able to use hand signs and whatever, that I was going to pull out money, drink, and trying to pull him into a bar. And next thing you know, we're laughing and joking. I have no idea what we're saying to each other, but we're drinking and having a great time. And that was kind of like the most dangerous thing that happened to me. We yelled at each other for a while, and then we drank and made up and had fun. And no clue as to what he said during the entire night, the 3 or 4 hours that passed on. So, just some fun stuff of being retired in Korea. Now that I'm 58. And I'm older, I don't do that stuff anymore. Pretty much, we got our car, we got our apartment, got our bank accounts, our cell phone service and all that. We shop at the open air markets, for fresh produce. We go on post to the military base, a U.S. military base, because I'm a retiree, to get the meat and the dairy and all that stuff. And things that are a little bit more expensive than on the local economy. And go to the gym 3-4 times a week and, do my little hobbies and things like that. But there's things that I don't like about it as well. Or, there's some things that I don't like. I don't like that there's not places like Home Depot or Lowe's, home improvement stores. That's kind of, they don't have those things here. You have to go, if you want tile, you got to go to a tile shop. If you want lights, you got to go to a light shop. If you want kitchen counters and cabinets, you got to go to that store. And there's, like, we went to a tile store. We're getting some tile work done in our apartment to replace the wallpaper, and we're putting tile in. We had to drive like 45, 48 minutes away, almost an hour away, to go to this tile shop and to pick out our tile. It wasn't like local. But we still got a good deal. But it's just kind of weird on how to do all that thing. The other thing I don't like is the lack of parking here in Korea. Now, there's a lot of malls and big shopping districts where they have underground parking. But if you're looking at, say, you're going to go to lunch and you want to go to this popular restaurant, they don't have parking like we do in the United States. And so you will be parking, and sometimes parking is crazy. Yeah, it will test your patience when it comes to that. And there's so many areas where, even in places with apartments or duplexes, eightplexes, and things like that, where there's not enough parking, and it's hard to find parking. So thank God we have our apartment that has underground parking, and we're pretty much guaranteed. We don't have assigned parking, but the apartment complex and management is really good about limiting the number of cars that are allowed to park. You have to have a sticker, and you have to either be renting or own or whatever. So, but parking is kind of a problem in Korea. Some of the other things I don't like about Korea, what else would that be? Sidewalks. There are some sidewalks that are just like, I don't understand it. They use bricks. A lot of places will use bricks in the older, not new cities or newer cities, but they'll use individual bricks, and then they don't tamp down the dirt enough, and then you'll have like tree roots growing, and then the bricks pop up and whatever, but they'll still have the the blind little bumps in the road that looks like it's, I don't know, like the Rocky Mountains, and it's like, Lord forbid you're blind. There's no way that you're going to walk down a lot of sidewalks, because you'll just trip and fall and kill yourself. So, yeah, a lot of sidewalks could be improved. And the other thing I don't like, marble. I don't get why Koreans put marble on a lot of flooring. I mean, I can understand in a house and things like that, but we're talking about elevators, we're talking about sidewalks, and when marble gets wet or it gets snow and ice on it, it's boom, you're done. You're going to fall. I just don't understand why they do that. And it's weird because they'll put down marble for walkways and stuff like that, or inside elevators, and then when it snows or rains and inclement weather, then they'll bring out cardboard boxes, they'll bring out rubber mats to put on the marble that is slippery, that's snot on a doorknob. Sometimes I just don't get that. What are some other things I don't like? Oh yeah, parking. Let's go back to the parking thing. If you're in Korea, you can park anywhere you want as long as you put your four-way flashers on. I'm talking, you don't even have to move off the road. You can just pull your car, just stop. And there's a store over here. You can just stop in the road, put on your four-way flashers, and it's okay. If you don't put on your four-way flashers, people get mad. But yeah, we've had family members where we go to stores and they'll just pull up and in the middle of the street, cars honking, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm just going to go in and get whatever. And I'm just like, that just really bothers me. But I've slowly but surely come accustomed to that and realized that if you put on your four-way flashers, you can pretty much temporarily park any way you want, as long as somebody's in the car. So I have actually incorporated that into my repertoire here in Korea, which, it's when in Rome, yeah. The other thing is people will get mad at. Now, this is the thing that I don't get mad at. There's people in Korea, and you'll notice you'll have people on scooters, with boxes on the back. It's food delivery service guys. And the traffic laws don't apply to them at all. Now, originally, I used to get mad because it's like, oh, you just ran the light. I blatantly run red lights. Moving in and out of traffic. And it's like, I used to get pissed off at those guys. And then I realized I had to change my thinking to the point of where it was like, okay, when I order food and I want it delivered, I want it delivered quick. So to change, instead of being frustrated all the time with these delivery drivers just running red lights and stop signs and whatever, driving on sidewalks and back into the road and getting in front of me or around me or whatever, I just kind of chalked it up to, well, if that was my food, I would want it as fast as possible. So me, somebody else, they deserve the same. Go ahead, food delivery guy. Run those red lights, get that food, make that money. I'm all for it. So yeah, and there's some people that I know that have been retired here in Korea for a while, some other expats, and they absolutely hate it. It gets up their nose and it just frustrates them to no end. And for me, originally that was the case, but now it's like, they're delivering food. That's important. So I kind of give them a pass. And it's weird because I guess Korea doesn't have they have police, but not like we do in the United States. And that's kind of interesting because in the United States, police will go around, oh, I saw you ran that stop sign, and they're going to pull you over and give you a ticket or whatever. Not so much here in Korea. I have yet to see a Korean policeman pull anybody over here in Korea. And I've got a number of years of Korea, of living in and being stationed in Korea in the military. And now that I've got over 2 years here in Korea, and we visited a number of times, I have yet to see any Korean police pull over a car. And you might be asking, well, do they not care about traffic infractions and whatever? Oh, yeah, they do. But they let the camera systems do that for them. And what about illegal parking? Here's the interesting thing. You will see a car that has a camera on the top, and it just slowly drives through the streets. And what that camera is doing is taking pictures of the license plates of people that are parked illegally. And I guess there's a time thing or whatever. But yeah, if those cars are parked really illegally, you'll get a ticket in the mail and you'll have to pay the ticket. Same thing with running red lights. And there are certain areas where they have red light tickets and so on, traffic infraction cameras, and that if you just blow through the lights, you will get a ticket because it takes a picture of you. It has the license plate. There's you driving, going through the red light or whatever, and you'll get a ticket in the mail. Speeding tickets, you don't have policemen with a speed gun, tracking people and then, chasing people like we do in the United States. It's all done by camera. If you're going 120 in 70 kilometer per hour zone, and there's one of those speed cameras, it'll take a picture of you, and then, a week later, you get something in the mail. Hey, you're speeding, you got to pay a fine. Ding, and you're done. So it seems to work really well, though, because on the Korean navigation systems, it will tell you where those places are at. Yeah. So it warns the people, hey, you need to slow down your speed to, 50 or 70 kilometers an hour. Speed enforcement camera ahead, 300 meters ahead or whatever. And people will slow down and then they'll reach the speed they're supposed to be going. And then after they go through that camera, then they'll speed up and then they'll have to slow down because of the next camera. But generally overall, that seems to work really well to minimize traffic accidents and so on and so forth. So very different than in the United States. Not to say that we don't have traffic cameras in the United States, but a lot of times the traffic cameras in the States seem to be an income generating device for that county or province or whatever it is. It's not really necessarily put there to stop people from speeding and killing themselves. Yeah. And Korean navigation, I think, is way superior than American navigation systems by far, because they will warn you of speed bumps. They'll warn you of speed zones and things like that, senior zones, kid zones, school zones, things like that, accidents. It'll inform you way ahead of time, and so on and so forth. It just seems to be a lot better than the navigation systems in the United States, in my opinion. So, there's that. Other thing I don't like about Korea is that there's a lot of things I could get in the United States that I can't get here in Korea. So if I was in the United States, I could order things from Amazon, from Japan or Germany or other countries, and I could get it delivered to me, in the United States, no problem. There are certain things that can't get in Korea if they come from Japan or Germany or some other places. I'm not sure the rhyme or reason, but I do a lot of hobby stuff, and it ends up that there are certain paints or certain things that I can get. I don't know the reason why. You just can't get them. So I try to order them through Amazon, and I can get some of those things through Amazon. But again, I can't get everything that I want. So there's that. Like for example, 3D printers. There's a few 3D printers that I'm looking at, and it's a first, second, and third choice. I look for all of these. I can't get them in Korea because they're too big to be sent by Amazon, because they're dimensionally too big, and so they won't ship it to my Korean address. I don't know why that's a thing, but when I go to the Korean shopping sites like Naver and Coupang and things like that, because there is a VAT tax and import fees and stuff like that has to go through customs, and then people who get that stuff got to put their little profit in there, so that's going to be another added expense. So there's I shouldn't say some, there's a lot of items that are 50% more, 100, 200% more than what they were in the United States. Yeah. So very, very, very interesting when we look at that aspect, and that kind of is frustrating. But overall, all the frustrations that I've come into of living here in Korea, it doesn't change my mind to say, do you regret retiring overseas in Korea? And the answer is absolutely no. The benefits of being able to retire early far outweigh any of this little stuff. Excuse me, the inconvenience of getting medications. And for those of you who don't know, I got like 4 or 5 medications that I got to take, and I got to go to a Korean hospital. And in the United States, you would get like your prescription, you get 30-day supply or a 90-day supply, and then you have like 3 refills that you could call in and get another 90-day supply, and boom, you're good to go. Here in Korea, I have to make a doctor's appointment with each specialty, and they will give me my 30-day supply. And then the next month I have to go back and get another 30-day supply, and every single month I got to do this. And unfortunately, the doctor strike has complicated that even more, because you have less providers. So now they really don't want to give you more than 30 days at a time. But then you got to realize that the hospitals, most of them are for-profit hospitals. How much are you going to profit by giving one prescription, a 90-day supply with 3 refills that you just have to call in and pick up, versus now you have to make a doctor's appointment with each specialty of those 5 medications, and every single month you have to go in there. Money. money. Yeah, it's that's something that the Korean medical system needs to change. They talk about being overworked, but when, like I said, I only have 5 medications that I have to get refilled every single month. So that means I have to have 5 separate appointments, and I try to get them all on the same day. So you're looking at a half day is gone, maybe more, depending on, the availability of your doctors. But again, when you go see the doctor, you're only going to be in there for like 2-3 minutes, and they're going to kick you out and give you your prescription, but they can charge you for the doctor's visit and every single month. So yeah, it's very, very interesting on what we see with all this. So yeah, even despite all that, some of those frustrating things, there's still so many other benefits that it's like, those are acceptable. And it just is what it is, And some people, there's some people that try to retire overseas and they can't put up with the little frustrations or change or adapt to the way things are done in a foreign country. And so they go back home, which is absolutely fine. But there's other people that are retired overseas, they stay overseas, and then they get mad because of these things, and they're miserable. So I don't get those people. So anyway, but I think I've rambled on enough about being retired overseas in Korea. The doctor strike, the military service, that the residents who are on strike are now going to start doing their military service starting this year. North Korean defectors in the Ukraine wanting to come and defect to Korea, because if they go back to North Korea, they'll be executed, and skants, skirts over pants. It's a new fashion trend. There it is. So that's what we got going on. So for anybody else out there, if you enjoyed the video, then what you can end up doing is give this video a like and subscribe. And if you're watching this on Facebook, go to YouTube to the Berry channel. You can do that. I would appreciate that. And then you can also buy me a coffee if you want. As a matter of fact, these people right here have bought me coffee, and they're awesome people, and I have much respect for them. And for those of you who don't know, the Buy Me Coffee thing is this thing where if you appreciate somebody and the information that they put out, you can share that appreciation by buying them a coffee. And I buy people coffee all the time, so it's kind of a new thing. But with that said, that's going to be it for the video. Probably going to do the next big thing that we got going on this month is we're getting some tile put into our apartment. So I'm hoping to get some pictures and videos of that to show you the before, the during, and the after. And hopefully we'll be satisfied to kind of upgrade our apartment a little bit and make it more durable. The whole plan is we're going to make this a rental when we move to another apartment. But yeah, we're looking at doing that. So anyway, with that, it's the weekend here. It's Saturday. It's probably Friday in the United States. So the weekend is coming. Appreciate you all for watching, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. Good stuff. Skants. Get your skants on.